Welcome viewers, this is Media Track episode 9 on a nice sunny day as we record in Panjim, and I hand you over to Devika Sequeira to take the lead story.
This week I'd like to talk about a big story that appeared in the Goan, and it referred to this SEZs which were, sort of stopped by the government in 2008. At that point it was a Congress government, it was led by Digambar Kamath, and there was huge street protests, everything. So the Congress government wound up the SEZ. But what has happened is it has taken that many years to resolve the issue, and now we learn, in fact the matter had come up in the State Assembly, Digambar himself had brought it up. So 350 plus acres of land which was given to these SEZ promoters, and they have used the land for nothing has been manufactured, and yet they have made 100% gain profit from it. That's what Ashley Rosario reports here. So he says this indeed has been the story of the special economic zones attempted to be promoted by 7 private companies since 2005. Not a pin was manufactured or transacted, no business was transacted, and yet returns of more than 100% of their investment in the land, that is what they paid the Goa government for the land acquisition, that is the kind of returns they got. So this Goan story tracks this meandering saga that took place on this for 13 years. Now the whole point is the Goa government was not duty bound to pay them any of this compensation, yet it did. The court did not order them to pay the compensation, yet the Goa government paid it. And Industries Minister Vishwajit Rane says that the FIRs against everyone have to be withdrawn as the matter is settled, and as far as he is concerned, the issue is no longer relevant. And Digambar Kamath, who now heads the CLP, the Congress Legislature Party, he says that under no circumstances is the interest paid to these SEZ promoters legal, and the money should somehow be recovered from them. Anyway, so that is one.
It's a pretty amazing story. I mean, in the sense
it is,
that,
and it is a big scam, which for some reason what is not being talked about is the people who originally owned this land. They have lost out, and the land is still with the government, and no industry is happening. So now I want to bring a related story in this, because the SEZs were a complete failure, etc. And then the Goa government under Parika set up the IPB, that is the Investment Promotion Board, and one would have thought it was meant to fast track investment, and one would have thought at least this would have worked. But there's this report now that the Investment Promotion Board CEO himself has quit. And what is his reason for quitting? He says that he thought that his expertise would bring about a change in the functioning of the Goa IPB. However, that's not been the case. I have been bogged down by the same red tapeism that business complained about. Now, one little aside in this, one of the projects that was fast-tracked by the IPB, and the beneficiary of that has actually been Parikar's son Abhijat. His project was sanctioned under the IPB, and it was a project for a resort, eco resort deep in the forest. That also has been challenged by somebody in the High Court.
of course, continuing on this track, the media has its role of being a watchdog of power and holding power accountable. So in that sense, quite a few interesting stories have been coming out. One is on in the Herald again. It talks about a turbid time for the PWD, because a large part of Bande suffers from this turbid water problem, where water is being turbid, and they talk about the officials are blaming the incessant rain and the Solon rivers in North Goa, and the Podose some plant being shut, treatment plant or something, and all this leading to the high turbidity along with a shortage of aluminium sulfate stock. So at the end of the day, if we have these issues of poor management, then everyone in the state suffers. But apart from that, Devika, the other very interesting story I came across is by someone who's not a professional journalist in the sense of Joe Goa UK.
Yeah, he's a citizen journalist.
Yeah, and he's been at it
but
for
a
many years.
rather quiet one.
Not
wouldn't
quite.
you say?
I half jokingly call him the Scarlet Pimpleman of the Goa press,
Okay.
because no one knows
His
who this
identity.
guy,
He
this
doesn't-
identity
yeah,
is.
he likes to hide his identity.
But he's doing an amazing job, and I don't hesitate at any stage to praise people like him who are highlighting, what's going wrong in Goan society. So he has these pictures of a beach, Welsam, where the coastal erosion is actually so bad that it's cut into the sand quite a bit, and he's shown restaurants on the beach which are like being touched by the waters.
Okay.
So some commentator, this was on the Goa Speaks group, which is one of the Facebook groups which is on the net, and one of the commentators asked them why did they build so close to the sea, to the Arabian Sea. So he very silently in one line he answered, look at this photo which goes back 7 years, and 7 years back you can see there's a lot of beach there, and now today is just gone.
Yeah.
So he's been doing these stories, and apart from this he's also focused on other stories. For example, he's given facts and figures about the number of court buildings that that had a foundation stone laid for them somewhere in this is in the if I'm not mistaken 2009. So there was a foundation stone laid for the court complex in 2009 at Mirses. And till date the work is at whatever stage, but the government is every month paying out money to private parties to house their courts in these places, and then he keeps on giving details about the Kansauli Primary Health PHC hospital, which is taken 6 years since its foundation stone was laid in 2014. So I think people today with cameras and with the net and all, people can also safeguard their public interest in this way.
Absolutely, I quite agree with that.
Yeah.
The story that has really intrigued me is the new memorial that is coming up for the former Chief Minister Manor Parrikar on Miramar Beach. We haven't been told how much of the beach has been taken over by this project. We don't know anything about whether there was an acquisition, because after all the beach is public property, and a decision has been taken to just go ahead with it. The government had 17 people who applied, a total of 17 bids were received.
Architects.
Yeah, and they were shortlisted to 5, and now the government has selected UCJ Architecture and Environment to construct the Smriti Sthal or memorial for the former Chief Minister. But there were some very interesting details in the Times. They call it. They said that it's not only a memorial; it's going to be something of a shrine. Museum cum shrine dedicated to Parrikar, and it will take the visitor along a spiritual journey, and it's going to cost around 8.5 crores. So a foundation stone, the government is always they cannot do anything without laying a foundation stone. So the foundation stone will be laid on December 13th, which was Parrikar's birthday, and it will be in white marble with black granite, and the use of streams of water or the glass scaffolding, etc., has been chosen to symbolize an emotion attached to what Parrikar meant to the people of the state. It will also feature para watermelons and writing samples of the former Chief Minister. But there is an aside to this, You had Subhash Velinkar, who was the former RSS chief.
Yeah, that's in the Marathi
he
papers
is
also.
Saying, yes,
where
that's true.
He makes a point that, also Bandodkar Samadhi is nearby, so
Yes.
don't treat that as a kind of stepchild, treat it on the same level.
Yes, but at the same time, he also said the contribution of Bandodkar and Parrikar to Goa is immense, and he said that construction of memorials to any other political leaders in the future should not come up either in Kampala or Miramar. Obviously, Subhash Velinkar is just making these statements, but at the same time, you have, on the very same day that this news came, there was also another news item which really caught my eye. and it talked about Churchill Alamau asking for permission to set up a statue for Jack Sequeira at Khareban Junction in Margao. And the permission was, by the way, turned down by the GSIDC, who thought that, you know, the matter is a little bit, it could be politically motivated. And they claim that there is also a demand for statue of Shivaji in Bisholi, and there's a demand for statue of Manor Loya by the Samvorde MLA.
So while you know, these issues were being discussed in the media, on the social media also there was a lot of feedback to them, and one section of opinion was saying that why waste so much money, and can we not have something else instead. In this context, one of the posters, Iona Fernandes, said that, you know, when ministers get sick and politicians get sick, they also should face the same trouble that the citizen faces
I
at the
absolutely
GMC, for
agree
example.
with that. I absolutely agree
Especially
with
the
that.
toilets and, you know, all these.
Oh
kind of
yes,
issues.
completely. It's a fact. But you know, at the same time, we have this, you know, tussle happening with the government insisting that the Kala Academy complex is tottering. You know, the case is in the court, and there was another story which came out in Navin Times, and it talked about the Kala Academy leaking all over, and the water came onto the piano, an expensive piano belonging to the Western Classical Department of Kala Academy is affected by rainwater from the leaking ceiling. Now, so I thought, why didn't they shift the piano? I mean, it's such a simple thing. So are these stories motivated or what? You know, to just give them some reason to bring down the Kala Academy complex.
Another story which came out during the week is about the Navy announcing that it would be closing the Dabuli runway, one of the runways, every Saturday morning. So that causes some disruption in the flights. And of course, they said that because of the heavy rains, you know, the impact of it is also on the airport functioning, and they need to maintain it. So of course, the Navy also is affected by the rains, and the full state was. The impact is still there. Now it's sunny as we record, but we don't know what you know what the weather extremities will be like. There were some very interesting reports about you know, the raising flow of some of the rivers in North Goa, and how it would affect Tilari, and people were watching it. This was just before the dry spell started in the state.
That's true, yeah. So I'll come to another story that you know, has sort of gripped everybody's attention, because every person who owns a vehicle, whether a two-wheeler or four-wheeler or a truck, is going to be affected. And it is the new Motor Vehicles Act rules which have brought these huge fines. And as we know, recently in Delhi, a truck driver had to pay 80,000 rupee fine for not having his papers on order, not having a driving license. So the new Motor Vehicle Act rules, which have been brought in by the Union Road Transport Minister, are not actually you know, implicit on the states. So Mr. Gadkari, who's the Union Minister, has said that states can revise fines if they want. However, this is an issue of people's lives, and we should stick to these rules. But what has happened, and it's happened in a very interesting manner, because the first state to go against the act was Gujarat, which is run, of course, by a BJP government, and Uttarakhand has followed. And now we have Bengal, which is of course not a BJP government, but Maharashtra too is saying that it will not implement the amended MV Act. And Goa has said that the act, the new rules will not be implemented till the roads are repaired. But now Movin Gudino, who is the minister, he said that the government fines will not be harsh while implementing these. And in the case of Gujarat, in fact, they've reduced the fine from rupees 10,000 to rupees 1,000. So it's going to have, but you know, people who've been victims of accidents, they've actually protested.
I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on this? I have very mixed feelings, in the sense that on the one hand, the fines are too draconian and all that, but on the other hand there is an element of safety, and you know, if the government went some way there,
Yes.
or there was some fear, I wouldn't really mind going along there. No?
There is an element of safety involved, and you know, but you know, the rules have to be applied equitably, and we should.
And the jump is very high, no? It's
very high. It's ridiculous. I mean,
if you have an old bike and if you get a fine of 25,000,
I have a feeling the truck driver probably had to sell his truck to pay that.
You're
fine.
better off keeping it with the cops, not tell them keep it for
Exactly.
you, kind of thing.
But there's a related story to this is also that the new rules have come for vehicle registration in Goa, and they have to, from October 1, all those who've bought cars before April of this year are going to have to queue up at the RTO to get your new high security they're called high security registration plates, and they are only available with the RTO department.
Yeah.
And by the way, there are 14 lakh vehicles, and these are so there's been a lot of protests from the public. So first they said there is no stakeholder was taken into confidence by the government when they came up with this. Then the government has not given enough time for these, for people to do this, and is the RTO going to be able to cope? That is a question. So the whole process starts on October 1, and it depends on your car or scooter number.
As per the number when you go.
Yes,
and all that.
they've given a chart, and you have to look up your number and
Very complex.
relate it to the chart.
So, the thing with politics, sometimes it drags you down and makes you depressed when you read it in the morning. So, I want to shift away from that. Two or three interesting stories. One is that the Goan, if I'm not mistaken, has announced that the Spanish musician and professor of the University of Seville, that is Dr. Jose Carlos Carmona, is in Goa to identify the possibility of setting up a first music department for Western music in India. And he is a senior of Maestro Dr. Santiago Girelli, who has been active in Goa in the university for a long time. Apart from that, there's also the story of Oman getting a new church. It's called, incidentally, the St. Francis Xavier Church, and it's at Salalah in Oman.
How many Christians would there be? How many Catholics would there be in
Good
Oman,
question.
would you think?
No, because there are quite a few Goans also.
Okay,
no,
they're
so
mostly expatriates.
Yeah, expats and all that. So this full debate about allowing each other in a migration-oriented world. How do we how much liberty and freedom do you give to people of another belief or whatever? And talking about that, we had Keralites in Goa celebrating Onam, which is the harvest festival.
Yes,
So-
but did you see the number? I was quite struck by the number. One newspaper said 2 lakh
Yeah.
people from Kerala now
You
live
know-
in Goa. So that itself is quite a striking figure for a place like Goa.
These numbers are a little bit alarmist, I feel. See, partly they may be true, but everyone keeps claiming.
I
no?
don't really think it is alarmist. It gives you an idea of how many people
Yeah.
are sort of migrating here, and
See,
how-
Malayalis like Goans are highly migration prone, so I can believe that. But when they come up with some figures that Uttar Pradesh has the top number of migration in Goa and all, then it becomes a little bit. And people keep claiming, someone says we have 3 lakh of our people in Goa, our community is 3 lakh strong. Then Churchill Alma will say fishermen are 4 lakh strong and all. If you add it up, it would reach a huge number anyway. But it is a big challenge for us in times of migration. How do you cope with change and with diversity of cultures?
Yeah. Well, Frederick doesn't like politics, but I do, and this is a story that I find very, very amusing, if you ask me. It talks about the new minister, Jennifer Montserrat, who now is the IT minister. She replaced Rohan Kaunte, and she is in some kind of little war with Nilkant Harlankar, who is the chairman of the Infotech Corporation. So it started with Jennifer just, going and inspecting the site of the Electronic City project in 2M without informing Harlankar. So there's been this war of words, and it needed the chief minister's intervention to cool their infighting that's going on. But what is interesting in this to me is that both Harlankar and Montserrat went from the Congress to the BJP. So in fact, what is happening, I think, is the BJP has inherited the Congress problems.
Also, if you're too strong, you're weakened in a sense. Now, when Rajiv Gandhi had this massive majority,
that is true. And
you start
in
fighting each
another interview I saw with Kavlekar, who was, CLP leader of the Congress before he moved to the BJP, he pledges steadfast loyalty to the BJP now that he's joined the party. But let me just put things in perspective. Kavlekar had cases against him booked by the Parikar government for illegal land deals in Karnataka. He also had been raided allegedly for running a madka, whole business in one of his houses. So one understands why Kavlekar is pledging so much loyalty to the BJP at the moment.
On another front, on the economics front, there is this issue of the Mapsa Urban Cooperative Bank pending a merger with one of the Punjab cooperative banks, because depositors and all have been in a tight
Punjab
spot.
and Maharashtra. It's a 3-bank merger
So,
they're planning.
I mean, what do you do if you have an account in one of these banks and you can't take out more than a certain amount every month? And also, I know people who have actually got hit by it. And of course, Healthway is the first private hospital in Goa to do a kidney transplant, as reported by the Goan again. And there has been a dengue problem of dengue. And on one day I heard of 3 cases. It quite shook me.
Rico, I'd just like to intervene on that kidney transplant case. There was a report in another paper. It mentioned that some 15 of them have already been done in GMC. But most of the donors are wives, are women, and they are usually the wives of the patient. So that figure sort of struck me quite a bit.
True. Though of course, sometimes it's the other way around. So one of my friends who's a Malayali, he said that his father-in-law had donated to his mother-in-law, and the hospital was shocked because
that sounds interesting.
Yes, there is a patriarchy, element of patriarchy there also. So this dengue also, on one day I heard of 3 cases and I was quite surprised. I think sometimes it takes time to hit us. I remember in 2005 or sometime before we were aware of the malaria problem. One fine day at a meeting, Thomasin said that we had 3,000 malaria cases in Kandoli constituency, Kalangut constituency. And it was then that it struck, some of us to realize the enormity of the problem. The media also sometimes can take time to...
No, I just read, in fact, on September 12th, on the day we are recording this, that there 16 cases have been detected in Vasco alone.
And plus in other parts of the state.
Yes, that's true.
Then, of course, on the obituary front, Victoria Fernandes, who was an ex-MLA, whatever you think of her politics, I think as a person she was a very warm person, very friendly, and everyone had good things to say about her when she passed.
Absolutely. I think Victoria was one of the most charismatic politicians in Goa, and whichever party she belonged to, she was earlier, I think, maybe in the UG party, and then she came into the Congress. She had a charisma that went way beyond any of these, and another thing was, she wasn't petty. She was not in the least petty. She spent a lot of her younger days in Belgaum, which is today Belagavi. And so there's this, I thought Times did a pretty good coverage of her, she deserved some coverage. And they talked of her, she was born in Kurtori. She was one of, twins. She had a twin, and she spent most of her childhood in Belgaum. It was a journey with her father, who was a range forest officer in the jungles of North Canada, that sparked her desire to serve people. So this background about her I didn't know, but I remember when I was a young reporter, I remember a vivid image of Victoria coming in this huge mass of people during the Konkani agitation. She was quite impressive, heading the full, lot
mostly
of
in white, light-colored saris, and everyone
she
else
always wore a sari with a big border. And
light-colored.
True.
Mostly.
Yeah.
One or two other issues in the news. Apparently, according to one report, all the public CCTV cameras in Vasco, 52 of them are out of action. So that's a bit of a problem. And there's this story, very nice positive story of a Goan dentist who has got a patent from the EU on a particular dental implant procedure. I think it's called the monobolic dental implant procedure. and his name is Dr. Marvin Kotta from Benauli. His father was an MLA in those days.
Yes,
I
that's
don't
correct.
remember
Yes,
him. And
that's true.
yeah, so he talks about his story of how he got an Indian patent for it, then he got a US patent, and now a European patent in Germany and things like that.
So there was another story that was sort of resonated this week, and it talked about. It started with the union minister coming to Goa, the union minister Prahlad Joshi, and he's suggesting that since both the governments in Goa and Karnataka are BJP governments, they should negotiate a settlement on the Madai issue. Now this has raised hackles in Goa because as far as Goa is concerned, the issue was already long settled, and so Digambar has pointed out, Digambar Kamath of the Congress, he said that the Madai Water Disputes Tribunal has already given its award, so there's no question of any negotiation going on, and Karnataka has got from that they've got from Goa, they've received already 13.4 TMC feet of water, but they're asking for 36. So that's almost twice the amount, which I'm sure Goa cannot readily agree to give it. So Sawant is in a bit of a fix with this union minister telling him to have talks, and Yedurappa already getting in touch with him. So he has sort of just said that as of now there is no proposal for a meeting between him and the Chief Minister of Karnataka. Recently there was this huge uproar in the meeting at the MMC, that is the Margao Municipal Council, on the payment to Fomento company for handling of the Sonsoda waste. So, the citizens actually went into the meeting and they raised a hue and cry, and they said they would not agree to the company being paid 1 lakh per day to handle the Sonsoda waste. And they have now decided to file an intervention petition. They objected to it, and they are going to approach the court. And the decision was taken after the citizens attended the special council meeting.
Okay, to wind up, two very offbeat and kind of interesting stories. One is that the Goan Voice UK, this is the website, an expat website run by Eddie Fernandes, picked up this story from the Free Press Journal about the Bandra Fair. I've never been there, but I've heard so much about it.
No, I haven't been there myself. I think it must be on the. It's probably not on the scale of old Goa. I'm sure it's not.
Maybe bigger, who knows?
Is it bigger?
Robin could tell us. Someone who's been there could tell us.
Sure.
But that's one story. And the other story is just today morning, I was reading it in the papers, and unfortunately it was a bit too late, but it's the 400th death anniversary of Thomas Stevens.
Okay.
So Thomas Stevens, of course, the Jesuits have been, kind of focusing on his work a lot, and it really deserves to be focused on, because the kind of writing he did as an Englishman, as a Britisher, kind of studying Goan writing in Konkani and in Marathi.
Yeah.
And even in the Goa University Marathi department and all, people look at his work with a whole lot of respect and appreciation. So today was this year is the 400th, I don't know when, this year is the 400th anniversary of his death.
How many years did he live in Goa?
So he lived a long time. He was a rector of Rashol, and he studied the languages. And when our kids have a problem with Konkani, Marathi, Hindi, I point to him and say, like, look at this Britisher who could actually pick up these languages so well. And I think it's important to not only remember these people, but also to give their work a new life.
Yeah.
So with this, viewers, we'll end up for now. And thank you so much for being with us. Your feedback is always welcome. Do drop into our studio also if you have the time, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you for watching.